It began as a whisper in Regina's corridor of power, a notion so outrageous, so politically radioactive, that even uttering it loud had once been career suicide. But on a brisk July morning, as sunlight cut across the provincial legislature, Premier Scott Moe stepped up to the podium, cleared his throat, and detonated a political earthquake. We have been ignored. We have been dismissed. And now we are exploring all options, including statehood. Gasps rippled through the gathered reporters. In one sentence, Moe had lit a fire under Confederation itself. Saskatchewan, a proud prairie province, was now openly considering becoming the 51st state of the United States of America. Back in Ottawa, Prime Minister Mark Carney stared at the live feed, unmoving. Around him, advisers murmured into phones and exchanged frantic looks. Carney had expected friction with the provinces, especially the West, but not this, not outright geopolitical rebellion. Moe's words weren't just frustration, they were carefully calibrated. For too long, Saskatchewan's energy, agriculture, and autonomy have been throttled by Ottawa's overreach. The carbon tax, the pipeline interference, the indifference to our sovereignty, we have had enough. But it wasn't just rhetoric. Within hours, Moe's office released a detailed 87-page white paper laying out the path to partnership. The document explored legal, economic, and cultural frameworks for Saskatchewan to pursue a political alignment with the United States, up to and including statehood. And then, south of the border, President Donald J. Trump did what only he could do. He responded to the Truth Social. Smart move by Saskatchewan. Tremendous people. Tremendous land. They love oil, love freedom, and love America. Should be the 51st state. Why not? Great for our farmers and energy. Let's talk. It was like gasoline on an open flame. By nightfall, #SaskExit was trending globally. Cable news ran endless debates. Economists argued about the implications. Constitutional experts were rolled out, baffled and blinking. And Canadians? They were furious or exhilarated. There was no middle ground. Then came Danielle Smith, Premier of neighbouring Alberta. In a surprise joint press conference with Moe, she didn't mince words. Saskatchewan isn't alone, she declared. Alberta shares many of the same grievances. This country has lost its way. We are not threats to unity. We are victims of disunity. If Ottawa doesn't change course immediately, Alberta will explore the same options. The turmoil had become a landslide. Carney's office scrambled to control the narrative. A national address was hastily arranged. Standing in front of the Canadian flag, the Prime Minister's voice was cool but steel-hard. Canada is not a convenience. It is not a contract to be broken. Saskatchewan is a foundational member of this nation, and we will not let a few voices of frustration dismantle 157 years of history. But Moe wasn't bluffing. Leaked documents revealed that high-level Saskatchewan officials had already held informal exploratory talks with American congressional staffers and legal scholars. And Trump? He now spoke of Moe by name, calling him a true leader of the prairie, a strong man who understands prosperity. In Washington, there were whispers. Republican senators from oil state quietly met to discuss the feasibility of Saskatchewan's integration. The logic was simple. 1.2 million new potential voters in a solidly conservative region. Billions in energy and agriculture, vast resources, friendly demographics. Meanwhile, in Quebec, separatist leaders emerged from political democracy. If Saskatchewan can go south, they argued, why can't we go our own way? National unity, once taken for granted, was unraveling in real time. As Parliament convened for an emergency session, Speaker of the House Anthony Rota called the chamber to order under a cloud of dread. Yelling, shouts of betrayal, and even threats flew across the floor. The Conservative opposition caught between national loyalty and provincial sympathy, hesitated. Some MPs from Saskatchewan and Alberta refused to even attend. And then came the letter. Leaked to international media, it was a formal petition signed by 26 Saskatchewan MLAs addressed to the U.S. Department of State requesting an exploratory delegation to discuss statehood feasibility. It was no longer theory, it was a process. Canada watched paralyzed. The West, its engine of energy, of grain, of backbone, was slipping away. And in the East, Toronto and Montreal scoffed, condescendingly only fueling more rage out west. Inside his Regina office, Moe stood at the window, staring out at the flat expanse of land that had raised him. His phone buzzed, a call from Trump's advisor. He didn't answer, not yet, not until he was sure. But deep down, he already was. This was no longer about taxes. It was about identity, about the right to chart one's own course, about whether the old promises of Confederation still meant anything in the 21st century. And across Canada, ordinary citizens, confused, angry, elated, asked themselves the same question. As Saskatchewan's path to partnership ignited international headlines, tensions escalated beyond politics. Quietly, Ottawa began contingency planning. The Department of National Defence discreetly requested internal assessments. What would happen if federal authority was openly defied within Canadian borders? Meanwhile, in Moe's jaw, convoys of supporters waved both Canadian and American flags, some homemade, some fresh from online retailers. A new chant echoed in the street, Freedom North 51st. The RCMP issued crowd control warnings. Saskatchewan's legislature tightened security. Anonymous threats began trickling into officials' inboxes, some from furious loyalists, others from radical separatists. The tone of the debate had shifted, from policy to something darker, more tribal. In Washington, high-ranking Republicans began lobbying behind closed doors. This isn't secession, one aide told a reporter. It's realignment. Saskatchewan's not breaking away from democracy, it's choosing better democracy. Prime Minister Carney, under siege, flew to Regina, unannounced to meet Moe face-to-face. The meeting was private, but sources described it as cold, clipped, and without resolution. Afterwards, Carney stepped before reporters, his voice tighter than usual. Canada will defend itself, legally, politically, and if necessary, constitutionally. Saskatchewan's destiny remains Canadian. But Moe, when asked if he still saw a future under the maple leaf, didn't answer. He simply smiled, turned, and walked away. And the country waited. Breath held, unity cracking, history hanging by a thread. Is Saskatchewan still Canadian? Or was it already gone?